Welcome to John Ryan Finds Out. I am John Ryan, and today we're going to find out what this sound is.
So the Olympic handball team is going to be training in the old Westwood gym in preparation for the Olympics. The actual team members that are going to be selected are going to be moving into St. Lucie County to undergo all of their training for the 2028 Olympics.
So hi everybody. With me is Mark Wright, a former national team player. Um, and you may have seen him do some things with JD and Handball House. Um, but just for everybody, can you give everybody a real quick uh, 1 minute Mark Wright handball background?
Okay, well, I first walked onto a handball court at UCLA where I was working and became part of their club team. And that was January 1977. And in September of 77, I found myself playing for the national team against Canada in Edmonton, um, Canada, and for the right to go to the World Cup and breaking cardinal rules like throwing the ball back to the goalie in the crease, not knowing what the rules were still, but having USA across my chest and just growing to love the game itself. Probably more than anything, back then we called it circle runner. We call it line today. And from that point on, I spent probably as much time promoting the game as I did playing it, although I was a member of the national team trying to go to the Olympics in 1980. Well, we all know how that worked out with the boycott and stuff. And then played on club teams. And because of my professional involvement as a video producer, writer, director, editor, I've done various promotional video and media projects over the years, and in 2020 formed American Handball Associates, which is around primarily to raise awareness of the sport in this country, and we do that in a number of ways.
All right. Well, um, we're calling this episode John Ryan Finds Out. And I've found out some information, and this is maybe somewhat of a homage to Pablo Torre and his excellent podcast, if some of you have a chance to listen to it. But the topic today is residency programs, and I found some information about it. So I thought we'd first give a little bit about our experiences with residency programs. I'll start out, and I live here in Colorado Springs, and occasionally I'll drive by the Olympic Training Center. It's on the other side of town, but maybe I'll be down there for some reason. And it's such a flood of nostalgia for me. And looking back now as I get older, and some of the best years of my life, actually. I didn't have it was different. I didn't have any family responsibilities. I was playing a game I loved, um, getting to play it every day, getting better as a player. Um, and you form tight bonds with your teammates. You go on trips. Um, as a player, it turned me into a much better player playing on a regular basis, playing against people better than me with good coaching. Um, you know, I guess what I'm saying is one of the best experiences of my life. I mean, what about you?
Well, certainly that made all the difference for me as one who was serious in pursuing going to the Olympics and being part of the national team between 1977 and 1980. It was a difficult existence when you couldn't hold a regular job because the team would pull you away for a training camp. In 1977,
Where were you located when you were doing it?
I was in Los Angeles. So I was still tied to UCLA, but in June of 1977, I made the decision to leave the team. I was a freelance writer. I was trying to break into sitcom writing, and I had an agent. But I really spent more time trying to figure out, getting in shape and playing the game. And
Where was it located?
our sport,
The residency program.
well, there was no residency program until June of 79 when we were all invited to come to Colorado Springs.
Okay, so you were in the Springs too.
Right, but that was just when those facilities were opening up.
Yeah.
We've had our first tryouts actually in Squaw Valley, which was a camp where we could bunk, and then we would take buses to the local high school. But all the guys who became the 80 team and beyond all had this massive tryout in August of 79 in Squaw Valley. Even the Eastern guys came out, headed by Peter Buning, who was the coach at that time. And then Mike Cavanaugh took over uh, as head coach of the team once we were installed in Colorado Springs. And, that made all the difference for us. For me, I was able to wangle some freelance jobs, either ghostwriting in Hollywood, so to speak, or directing videos for corporations. But it was very hit or miss. There was a couple of times you'd come back from a trip. I remember in Christmas of 79 being in Notre Dame Cathedral on Christmas Eve and then having to come back and borrow money to make rent. Um, and, that didn't really sit well to be able to tell those stories and then go, oh, by the way, can you give me 300 bucks? Um, so being able to move into Colorado Springs to the OTC, which was, very formative back then, and we didn't have a gym. We had to go to the local high schools and junior high schools in some cases to play, but at least it meant we had a place to live and to get meals, and that made all the difference.
Yeah, to me, it's almost a little bit like boot camp, almost. You're living together, you're playing together. Um, it's a
Well,
shared experience.
if you go back into the history of the teams that have qualified for the Olympics, the 72 team was all Army based, but they were divided up into officers and enlisted men, and each of those had different experiences. Plus, they had several guys from the Adelphi program, and they all lived in this big house together. And it was in New Jersey. I visited. It's a um, woman's hair salon now, but it had, multiple bedrooms, and it was their party house. And just as you were speaking about, the spree decor that came out of whatever it was, 324 Maple Street in this little town in Jersey,
Yeah,
close to Fort Lee, where they were practicing all the
yeah.
time.
And I think that's like you'll hear it commonly remarked at the alumni Olympic alumni reunions they have is that the handball people are the most tightly knit group of all, and it's because they they weren't just thrown together, often right before an Olympics. They had been like training together for a couple years. So,
Right.
um,
Well, and the guys in '84 did much the same thing,
yeah,
living out on the East Coast
yeah,
and various jobs that they had. Nobody was really paying them to be there.
yeah.
They, in some cases, got jobs arranged for them, but they all had to work a day and then go to practice afterwards.
All right. So lots of positive things both you and I are saying. So now I'm going to share a video now.
Now, will I be able to see this?
You should be able to see it. I want to make sure um, that you can hear it and see it well. So if there's a problem, let me know.
Okay.
Are there any plans for a residency program? And if so, how far along are they?
They're only in exploratory stages right now. I wouldn't call them plans in so much as being explored, and it would not take the shape of at least the two that I'm most familiar with. It wouldn't take those same shapes. It would be the concept that we've discussed and that we're in discussions about and exploring is a training site. So it's somewhere that we can have a regular presence, but would not be sort of bellwethered by X number of people move to the area and these X people comprise the program and no one else. So it's like I said, so it's exploratory and small distinction in terms of what it is that we're actually exploring. But I think more or less, let me know if I can answer that further.
I think what you're saying is it's more of a place for the national team to train for a few weeks, maybe before like a national team event this next summer or something.
I think home base rather than everyone that wants to be in the program rehoming.
All right. So for clarity, that was a USA Team Handball Town Hall that was held on July 28th earlier this year. You participated. I participated. I
Right.
asked a lot of questions. Um, Asked a question about residency program to CEO Mike King. Um, I've said all these great things about residency programs. Um, why do you think I was asking that question?
Um, well, I can only imagine from my own perspective. I was curious how that would relate to a team that would be difficult to pin down to a residency program, considering that it's primarily made up of guys who are committed to play throughout the year to professional contracts. So a residency program asking them to live and work and play together is impractical.
Yeah, and when they were in Colorado Springs to take on Canada for Pan Am Games qualification,
Yes.
I actually heard that some of the old timers were asking them whether they would be interested in moving to a residency program, and they this is the men's team. They I I wasn't there, but I can imagine they kind of looked at that question with like a puzzled look in their eyes.
Right.
Um, and our women's program is in a different situation. Um, but setting that aside, I think where I get critical um, is we've tried the residency program experiment many times, and it has um, gone downhill over the years, and there's some reason for that. But we had a residency program in Cortland, New York, in the 2000s, and then we had the Auburn residency program from 2013 to 2018. Um, and I, you know, I don't want to critique the effort of the athletes involved and all the time they put into it. And I'm guessing that their experience is probably not that much different from yours and mine in terms of the camaraderie and the esprit de corps and becoming a better handball player. But I looked at the Auburn experiment as, in terms of results, and I don't think anyone can possibly argue with me, as just a complete failure in terms of results. And it didn't really develop too many great athletes. Had a lot of hardworking athletes that I kind of identify with because I was kind of on the fringe of the national team. And I think that they had quite a few athletes that probably comparable to my skill level. Um, but it was incredibly unsuccessful. And I challenge anyone to come up with any metric, one, one metric that will tell me, hey, uh, this is how it worked, and this will show you why it worked. This result. Um, hey, I'm very much identified with that. I don't know. You can chime in with your perspective.
Well, I was party to some of the people who were running the party to conversations with some of the people who were running those programs or were running USA Team Handball, which was, in charge of everything, among which were that program, that residency program that was supposed to change everything. And I always, if we can be frank, that was about the same time that Harvey Schiller came in, and that was supposed to change everything. And nothing really did change other than it was meet the new boss, same as the old boss. There was nothing of substance that ever came out of any of those arrangements. And my understanding was that the Auburn community didn't really get behind it the way that they said they were going to get behind. And the big problem, John, is we have never moved the needle in terms of public understanding of what this game is. No one knows what handball is. And that's why we don't attract more and better athletes. There is no buzz about this sport. The guys from Pro Handball USA are going to be arriving in Las Vegas next year, expecting the world to, this American sporting world to embrace them in some way.
Well,
And
yeah,
they've got they're going to have a bold comeuppance. Um, and
we could go on a very long tangent on that, but I'm going to try and
but
steer
I
us.
think that's fundamental
Yeah,
to what you're asking
yeah,
is why residency programs haven't worked, is that we haven't found a system to attract the athletes and get them to commit. There is no infrastructure.
yeah. Well,
Um,
well, well, I've thought about this quite a bit, and I'll identify some reasons why they haven't worked as well more recently. Not that they worked super well back in the past, but they worked better. And part of that was the competition we were facing wasn't as professional. Handball and clubs, they had clubs, but they weren't at the same level of professionalism that they have today. They've actually learned from American pro clubs, and they're much more organized in their training across the board. There are 100 clubs plus that are training on a very high level. Um, College athletes have more opportunities, and this includes both the men and the women. And I think because they have more post college opportunities, um, some athletes that we got in the past, we would never have a chance of getting today. That's my opinion. Um, and then just just recruiting is really hard. I don't know. I don't know uh, how it can be done better. I think it might become better, as we approach a very likely Olympics. Um, but those are the reasons that I've identified. Um, and people don't like hearing those reasons. And um, I think there's a little bit of the old timer, like, well, this is how we did it. It worked for us. Therefore, it should continue to work. We just need to tweak it a little bit, and it'll get done better. Um, I I'm very skeptical of that as a solution, though.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's going to take a whole new approach. Uh, you are facing a sporting world in this country that not only has grown doubly in sporting in viewing competition because we now embrace every female sport that was once an exclusive domain of males. And 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 I actually firmly believe that the way into the American sporting consciousness is through promoting the women's game first and letting the men trail. But that's a whole other separate argument. But that has opened up, twice as much competition, and then every major sport has metastasized. Basketball is now 3-on-3 basketball, indoor versions of everything. And now you've got droids playing every sport. You've got boxing with robots. Um, and that's why I think these Pro Handball USA guys, because I talked to Mads Winter, and they just think because they rule, he's a Danish guy outside of Copenhagen, they rule the world in handball, and it's just going to be a natural thing. And there is, I think, going to be a demand for that sport. But boy, you got to work the back channels on it. That's you've got to be real subtle about it, and you've got to appeal to Generation Z. You've got to start with that generation and chuck the whole, this is the way we did it before.
Yeah.
Uh, because
Well,
that,
and that's what I thought. I thought we were going to look at new solutions, but
yeah,
I keep hearing persistent rumors of like, hey, we're gonna. The first one I heard was Charlotte. There's an organization there that uh, even got Colorado Springs a little worried that they were going to try and steal sports and bring them to this old college campus in Charlotte. And I know that they were talking to them, so I figured, wow, they're going to go do a residency program on there. Why are they doing that? They need to think long before they, even begin to consider that. But I would keep hearing rumors. And that's why I asked that question 3 months ago at the town hall meeting to try and put to bed any of these rumors that I had. And after I heard that answer, I felt pretty good. I felt like, hey, all right, so yeah, we need a place to go train. We can't always rely on Colorado Springs opening their doors for us. It would be good to have a home base, so to speak. But
but
then,
where do you base that? And with the whole team, the whole men's team, I mean, to me, the men's and women's team are distinctly apples and oranges, unless there's been a sudden influx of contacts with European athletes on the women's side. You know better than me what their prospects are.
um,
Uh, I
there there are some. They're just for whatever reason, for luck. It's a smaller sample size to work with. There haven't been as many women available, and they haven't has been as high quality for the most part. Sophie Fassel, who unfortunately is out for the season with I think an ACL, might be the best goalie we've ever had. But other than that, it's it's a lower it's a lower talent level to work
well,
with.
I've been on record. We've produced a video promoting this as the opportunity for a reality television show, if there ever was one.
It would be an
With,
interesting solution.
well, I mean, and that would be the residency program taken to hopefully um, decent television standards. I don't want it to become the real athletes of handball.
Sure.
Uh, it's got but we've been pitched that before.
Yeah.
Both both Lionsgate and NBC pitched, bringing in Terrell Owens and Kurt Warner and all these old athletes to see if they can make the handball team
Yeah.
and make it a dramedy.
Yep.
And that stinks. But if you make it about real athletes who are living together in a residency program, I think the potential is there for an audience because they will become Olympians unless Trump screws that up. But that's another
Yeah.
argument.
I,
But
I I do think looking further down the pipeline, a solution like that would really make sense for the women's team. But more recently,
and
we've had some series of tryouts for our men's and women's programs, and most recently we had one in Port St. Lucie, Florida. And this is where we get to maybe what I found out because I'm looking on the map. Have you ever been to Port St. Lucie?
no, where is it? I've been to Florida
It,
twice.
it's I've been all over Florida, but I've never been to Port St. Lucie. It's a couple hours north of Miami. Um, it's I think it's like 400,000 person residential metro area. And I go, that's a strange place to have a tryout. Now, if you've ever been to Miami, Miami is at the tip of a peninsula. Miami is a long ways from anywhere. And
Right.
then Port St. Lucie is a pretty good drive from Miami. So it's like, why? Why in the hell are they going there? So I start Googling because, and it was this past weekend, I'm like, on, they're going to have videos of their tryouts and the people there and whatnot. There was even going to be an Army Air Force uh, exhibition game, but they weren't able to go there because of the air traffic controller and the government shutdown. So I start Googling to try and figure out what's going on there. And this is what I found out. So, what I'm going to share with you now is a board meeting for Port St. Lucie School Board. This took place a couple weeks ago.
Before we move on, I just want to take a moment to mention just kind of something exciting that we're working with in conjunction with Indian River
yes, sir.
State College. And I don't want to get sidetracked because this is a whole different animal, but we will be making an announcement and a media release soon with regards to the Olympic handball team. So the Olympic handball team is going to be training in the old Westwood gym in preparation for the Olympics. The actual team members that are going to be selected are going to be moving into St. Lucie County to undergo all of their training for the 2028 Olympics. And St. Lucie Public Schools are going to be a big part of that. So we're very excited about that. That's going to be in conjunction with Indian River State College, and we'll be making some further announcements. We just met with the team leaders the other day.
The coach and the CEO.
The coach and the CEO with regards to some just what this is going to look like. It was an initial meeting, but we've committed to it. We're very excited. It's a great opportunity for us as a district when you're talking about the Olympics and how important the Olympics are and the pride that we take in our country. We also have an exhibition match that we're going to be promoting, and that is going to be at Fort Pierce Central High School in November. Terrence, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So it will be an opportunity. It's November 15th. They'll be leveraging one of our facilities, and they're bringing in our armed forces. So the match will be between Air Force and Army. So they will be bringing in as our Olympic
John?
have a competitive tournament on the 15th.
And we are looking to, host not just these exhibitions, but the Olympic team, their families, and some of the families have children that will be attending our schools. And this is a great opportunity for St. Lucie Public Schools to create more awareness with what the Olympics, what they mean, and also even for our students to go and see some of the training that's going to occur in our county as we have these athletes prepare for the Olympics. But I wanted to just pause for that because that will be at the Old Westwood site before we pivot and continue into our construction. But we will be providing the board more information. This has come together very quickly for us, and we will be providing a media release as well. But I wanted you to hear it from us first here today in a public workshop. All right? All right, sorry. You didn't expect.
Interesting. Port St. Lucie.
So my question for you, Mark, is where should I go to get answers about what's going on with USA Team Handball? Should I go to the website? Should I check
Well, I
social
haven't been
media?
on the website recently. Have you been on it?
It hasn't been updated in three weeks. And we've
Oh,
had a women's tournament in Morocco, and we've had a youth tournament in Mexico City. Nothing, no update whatsoever. They have had some social media posts, highlighting, the results and maybe a few highlights of plays. So you can go to the website. Nothing about this on social media. Nothing about the tryouts that were held. What about an online town hall meeting? Can I ask
well,
questions at that meeting and can I get a straight answer about what's going on?
first of all, let me clarify. Um, this community that the gentleman, who was that guy?
He is the superintendent of the Port St. Lucie School District.
So he's the superintendent of schools of Port St. Lucie. And he, to what extent so he's committing school facilities.
In conjunction with Indian River College. But this is how I find out that we're having a resident. Does that residency program sound like a home base to you? Or
Well,
does
I'm
that
trying to
sound a
find
little
out
bit
if
more
he's talking
permanent?
about the men's or women's team. Or did you get?
I would assume it's both since they both had tryouts there. But I've heard rumors that the coaches are moving there.
And both coaches are now American. Um, so that's not too much to ask, is to centralize all those operations on an agreement made with the superintendent of schools, which seems to be,
There's a junior college there, and we'll do a follow-on episode where we talk more about maybe there'll be some information that comes out and we don't have to speculate about everything that's planned.
well, I think what
I
would
guess
be interesting to find out, first of all, if this is Army versus Air Force, the person to call would be Mike Kavanaugh.
oh, I
Uh,
knew about the match there, but there was nothing about like we're starting a residency program there.
well,
Nothing.
have you talked to Mike to find out?
So why do I talk to the CEO if I'm in a town hall meeting and I ask a question along those lines and I'm
Right.
told that we're going to have a home base? Why do I even want to talk to the CEO when things have changed so much in 3.5 months? When nothing is put on the website of any of this going on?
Well, don't get me started about the man who runs USA Team Handball. So I need to put a muzzle on myself because I am very opinionated about that, and it's not to the betterment of this conversation, and it's definitely colored. And uh, I'm not surprised that there is a turnaround in this direction. but I don't understand how it's going to practically work with the men. Who is going to, of those guys that you see playing in last January's World Championship team, who's going to want to move to Port St. Lucie?
There are so many questions regarding this that I don't even know where to begin. And I guess where I have the real heartburn is what it seems to me being led into a different direction 3 months ago as to what the plan was.
Well,
And
yes, it's totally different from what you played, the clip that described a training center that could be established anywhere. And we just described scenarios that are wholly different for the men and the women. And what these guys now are on record saying, even though their pulpit is hardly bully, but what they are on record as saying is there's going to be a future community or a community of future Olympians that we can now embrace and welcome in, and their kids are going to be going to our schools. I mean, that is putting the cart so far before the horse. It's ridiculous.
I just have a hard time believing that the answer I was given 3 months ago lines up with what just happened.
But it doesn't line up at all. And
Hey, thank you.
well, but that's to me the smaller issue. I'm not surprised at the turnaround. What
Well,
I'm surprised is that the people of Port St. Lucie now think that, they probably half the community and more think we're talking the little black ball in the small little closet.
that's the whole.
They
You
have
know,
no idea what this game is, but it's future.
we're running out of time,
Okay,
and we don't have enough information to even discuss the uh, the full elements of what this will look like. All right.
right.
Um, I would have asked a lot of questions. I would have gone on a rampage probably if I had known about this going on to try and stop it. I tried to stop Auburn before it started. And I get the sense that it's best to keep me out of the loop on things like this.
Well,
Um,
yeah,
and
but
like we're gonna have to wrap it up here. Um,
well, thanks
but
for
my
bringing it
my
up,
point
John.
my point is I can't take anything our CEO says it's face value. I just can't. I'm wondering
Well,
how
it's
I'm being played. You know, I
very metaphorical for what goes on in our country, and that's, I think, why I resent it as much as I do.
and my question for the folks out there is this is what I just discovered on a freaking school board meeting.
Yeah.
What else am I we doing?